So what would you do and
Yeah, my name's Arsenault. I'm manager of our Michael and Young Vancouver location. I'm the owner of Bridge Fly Fishing Products, and I'm a sales rep for C&D Rods. And that's me. Is it? Okay, so what is the word, or what is the culture of fly fishing to you? Yeah, so I've thought about this one quite a bit. It's a tough question because it's a broad spectrum. I mean, the culture of fly fishing is many different things to many different people. But in my own life and my own experience, I think relationships with the people around me during my fishing journey have really been probably the thing that's added the most amount of meaning to the whole thing. And in that, I guess I'm referring to community. And yeah, I think community really for me is the overriding theme. um, you know in the beginning when I first started fishing, as young people do, you oftentimes want to catch a lot of fish, and that success is what hopefully keeps you in it. Not always, but for me and a lot of folks, catching a few fish is a big part of continuing that journey. And the community of people I met on the rivers and in shops that shared that knowledge with me and mentored me allowed me to have that success that drew me in deeper into the whole thing. And then going forward from there, as time goes on, you catch more fish. At least in my journey, catching fish becomes less important, and time spent with people you love and in places you love, and being with your community in those places becomes as important or even more important. Even when I think competitive spey casting, without that community, without that group of people, it doesn't exist in the way that I know and love anyway. And even most conservation efforts are community as well. So to me, yeah, I think it's the people, it's the relationships, it's the community that makes it. Yeah, so there's two ways I kind of put a line together once I have the shape that I'm after. What I'll go and do is I'll go into my library lines, stuff like this here, or a number of other older lines, find the parts, and you can see here that I've actually glued this line together, sort of foot by foot, all kinds of different lines and colors in there. Typically, if it's a more complex taper, I'll glue it. But another way I do get that done, in particular on lines where I have longer pieces, is I'll actually loop them together. So you can see with this line here, there's many different loops in there, and the line is pretty much completely looped together from end to end. Another really cool thing about doing it this way is it's quite modular, so I can take pieces in or out. I can make really neat little sections like this section here. It's just a level section, weighs about 50 grains. So if I want to add weight to the back of a line as I'm testing it, or put a piece in somewhere, if it's looped on either end, I can take the piece out, put a new one in, add weight, take weight away, change the taper. Nice modular way of getting designs done.
You want to maybe walk the viewers through your beginning of your practicing and your getting ready for
sure
the competition season?
Like my typical
Process.
sort of process, yeah.
Like when does it start? Does it start in October the year before, or right after?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So yeah, the process of practice and becoming a better caster, because that's what competition casting is like, to me anyway. It's like, it's not so much about winning. It's more about how good of a caster can I be myself in this body with this mind. How how good can I be? How much better can I be than last year? What kind of improvements can I make? And so I'm the kind of guy who really struggle with spey casting. It doesn't come naturally to me. It's always a struggle. I go out to practice half the time. I think, why are you going? You are gonna just bomb this time. And then, every other day can be a great day. So it's an up and down process. You're a different person every time. And I've really tweaked my practice routine over the years. In the beginning, I learned a lesson pretty quick. The first year I went was 2011, and I think I got like 15th or something like that. And then I missed a year. I missed 2012. That's the only year I've missed. But I went back in 2013, and I'd practiced a bunch. My score went up by like 80 feet, but I was still in 15th. And so I realized that like these guys that I was competing against, they're already so much better than me, but they're getting even better every year. And so, if you're not, as a guy who is just coming in, if you're not, exponentially getting better every time you get back, you're kind of treading water. You're just kind of sitting in the same spot, at least for me anyway. So I decided at that point that I would basically do every second day from November right through. Right? And I would typically take 1 or 2 weeks off right before we went down, just to sort of give everything a bit of a rest. Or if I got sick, got a flu, or if something started to hurt, I would take a break. But I did my level best to do every second day. And then it's weird too. Sometimes nature can throw a curveball at you, or the lake will freeze for 2 months, and there's not going to be a lot of meaningful practice on ice. So that can throw a wrench into things for sure. But I'm the kind of person who needs a lot of practice. I can't do 2 weeks before I go, or a month before I go, or something like that. I need several months of intensive practice to get the desired result for me. And so this year, 2025, I started in late September, and I've been going every second day for most of that. You see this giant pile of lines in front of me. This has caused me to take a couple weeks off because I've had a lot of orders to fill. But yeah, this year I really wanted to make a concerted effort to go even longer and see how much I could learn. I did a few other things this year I haven't done a lot of in the past, and using video. So, every time I go out, I'm taking a tripod now and filming my practice sessions and seeing if I'm actually doing the things that I'm doing, seeing if I'm actually doing the things I think I'm doing, which when you videotape yourself, you oftentimes find out the things you think you're doing are not the things you're doing. So every year I try and change it up a bit, whether it's time or video or some way that I think that I can improve a bit more. I definitely explore that every time. And it's always a lot of fun. I love doing it. It's a highlight of my year every time. See you later, fly. history.
Why don't you tell the viewers the history of bridge?
Yeah. So the history of bridge. The history of bridge. My line company, is kind of the story of spey casting in my life, more or less. So I first saw spey casting in the mid 90s on the Chilliwack River. I was fishing down in the lower river and I watched a guy basically come down the bank on the other side, and he stepped into the river and started making these crazy motions with this super long rod. And then he would just come forward and stop the rod, and this line would just go shooting across the river. So the second I saw that, I knew that was something that I was going to have to try that. And I was out there with my 10-foot 8-weight single hand, flogging away, and this guy's just ripping them across the river with no effort. So a little while later, I went into Michael and Young, which I manage now, but at the time I didn't work there. And I saw Dave O'Brien, and I kind of explained to him what I saw, and he was the first to inform me that was actually spey casting. And so not long after that, I got my first rod and line, and I would say I was pretty enamored with spey casting straight from the beginning. I really enjoyed it. But I was really lucky that in the way things worked out, that I really also love fishing the Thompson a lot too. A legendary river in the interior British Columbia. That is a big, wide river with big, tough fish. And it's a river that long casts can be really effective there. And that river really attracted an international following of amazing spey casters that would go there and use extended belly lines and catch fish at great distances. And of course I managed to witness this on several occasions, and it really kind of made the connection to me that there would be value to learning how to cast far. And so that really stoked my interest in distance casting and refining my spey casting technique. And eventually that road led me all the way to competitive casting. So it seemed like a great way to learn more about casting, more about how to cast further, meet some cool people. And so I took my first trip down to San Francisco to Spey-O-Rama in 2011, and I'd kind of been going ever since, basically. But when I first started competing, lines for competition, even today, they're not really ready-made. They're meant to be trimmed from the back and even from the front, depending on what you want to do. So you get this line, it's a tournament line. It comes too heavy and too long, and you kind of start trimming in different areas to get the line to tune it to what you want it to be. And so at that time, there was very few actual purpose-made tournament lines on the market. And some of the guys I was really, sort of looking up to in the casting world were these guys that were casting for Karen fly lines, basically, a company out of Scotland. And so I ended up getting a Karen 95 1011, or sorry, 1112, and I would cut into the back of that till it was about 71, 72 feet. And I can't remember how much it would have weighed, but it would have been in the neighborhood of 1,000 grains. And that was really my first time ever messing with a fly line. Up until that point, all the lines that I'd used, I just bought. I picked the appropriate grain weight or line designation for the rod I was using, and the appropriate line for the kind of things I was putting on the end of it, what I was hoping to fish. But that was the first time I ever messed with a line, tuned a line, did something custom to a line. And when I got into that and cutting lines and started using the tournament gear, I felt in that gear a well of speed and power that I'd never felt before. And that was the first sort of thought that I had about altering a fly line, number one, but number two, actually thinking about designing a fly line, thinking how cool would it be if we had lines that felt like this, scaled down into to the fishing lines that you see on the market today. And so that really is how the company started. It came from a love of casting, and a genuine curiosity about understanding how fly lines work.
So what's going on there?
Now look at this one. Any difference? Is there anything wrong with my boots? Okay.
It was wrong.
Cool.
So now, can you talk about your design process for your lines?
Yeah, for sure. The design process. You know, it's an interesting thing. I'd imagine that a lot of us that design lines have our own quirky ways of doing it. You know, despite a lot of Google searches, I have not found a course you can take on line design at the moment. So I feel like most of us who are designing lines are passionate anglers and feeling the process out as we go. You know, the way I sort of learned was first of all, obviously cutting the lines as I just talked about, but then, you know, having these ideas that are these things I wanted to get done in a fly line. You know, I really didn't have any knowledge of how I would be able to do that. And so my good friend James Reed, amazing bamboo rod builder, was living in North Van at the time, now located, I believe, to Campbell River. But him and I were hanging out a lot, and I was obviously relaying my interest in doing this to him, and he said to me,